Happy New Year. It's 2026, and welcome back to Sour SaaS. This is the podcast for operators to have contrarian takes against just the normal methodologies of what marketing is in B2B. And today, we just like to get right into it. Don't have a very long intro, but I have a very special guest. I think the VPs of marketing and the CMOs who are currently at SaaS companies would really appreciate hearing his perspective. Just a little bit about him. I'll let him dive into it himself. But he's been the CMO for a high growth vertical SaaS company that had an exit, and now he's an investor for vertical AI right now. And the reason I brought him on today was because he's had that moment that I think every CMO or VP of marketing wants to have, which is to make it to that point where I have been a part of a rocket ship that is having an exit moment. And so, I just wanted to have him on to share his opinion and share his perspective on how his journey was to get to that exit, and what are some of the blueprints and the clues that he noticed on his journey that might help today's marketers and CMOs. So, without further ado, I would love to introduce my guest today, Nick Tippmann.
Thanks, Isaiah. Excited to be here and looking forward to having a great conversation and hopefully have some good tidbits and takeaways for your audience here.
Of course, I think you will. So I didn't give you enough of an intro, so just a little bit about Nick Tippmann, like what's some of the accolades, accomplishments. Why should people, CMOs, VPs of marketing, maybe listen to you?
I'm sure to give a little bit on my background. Nick Tippmann, founder, managing director at TipTop Ventures. As you mentioned, we're an early stage B2B vertical AI focused venture fund, focus on backing the next generation of vertical software and vertical AI winners, leveraging my background as a vertical SaaS CMO, as you mentioned, and founder. And then we built an LP collective of 95 plus other exited vertical SaaS founders, execs, and VCs who have had success as well, from places like Service Titan, Procore, Mindbody, Toast, etc. Prior to starting TipTop, as you mentioned, I was a CMO, marketing leader, and founder for, all of them, nearly 14 years before this, but a marketing leader and CMO specifically for 9 years, Greenlight Guru, which is a B2B vertical SaaS for the med tech industry, where we help med device companies get approved by the FDA and then keep their devices compliant once they got to market. As you mentioned, we had an amazing ride there, grew the business from zero to tens of millions in ARR, from no employees to over 225 employees and the market leader. And then, yes, we had a nice partial exit to private equity a couple of years ago where we ended up raising over $100 million. And the company is still growing and on a great trajectory today, and very proud of what I accomplished while I was there and what the team is still doing today.
Well, Nick, it sounds like you have a lot to share with our audience then. So let's kick it off. We don't call it Sour SaaS for no reason. So hopefully you give a good reaction, because I think my last two guests had no reaction to these sour fruit riots, and they were like, it's not sour at all. They're used to it. So maybe you'll have a nice little. Well, let's kick it off with the first question as you take your first. Come on now.
Well, let's see what we got here. This is exciting. All right, right on.
Here we go.
Well, what do we got here? A little sour, but not too bad.
I got to get something more sour. Y'all are making it seem too easy.
Delicious.
So you went from being the CMO, you're trying to prove marketing's value to the board and to the investors, and now you're on the other side of that table. What's the biggest gap between what CMOs think the board wants versus what investors and the boards actually care about?
Yeah, I think the biggest gap that I see with CMOs is that they're overly focused on activities and not focused on outcomes. And so I see a lot of CMOs, particularly early CMOs or CMOs that are interacting with the board for the first time, that are all talking about their vanity metrics, the number of campaigns they got out, the number of leads that they've generated. They've got dashboards with 40 different metrics on it, whereas what I think a board is really looking for is in how you're impacting revenue, how you're actually driving the business forward. How fast are you learning? How are you taking those learnings and iterating them and putting them into your back into your model and building your growth engine?
Okay. What do you think changed for you? When do you feel like when you were at Greenlight that you finally got the board's trust? Like what specifically changed for you?
Yeah, I think what really shifted for me while at Greenlight Guru and how I was able to earn the board's trust was when I shifted from focusing on beautiful decks to really just talking to the board and getting them to understand how I was thinking about the business, where our growth levers were, how we're prioritizing experiments, how those experiments were doing, and basically being able to show the board that, hey, we're not just decorating a car here, but we're actually building the engine and steering the ship, if you will. And so I think that trust really came through as I was able to show my understanding of the business and that we're not just focused on putting out new blog posts or driving more traffic or generating more leads, but actually building a sustainable growth engine and showing how those experiments are impacting revenue and how much revenue we drove and how much revenue we impacted and how much expansion we've influenced. And so really getting back to owning the outcome of the business and being a business person and business leader rather than a marketer.
That's a great segue into a question that just kind of popped into my head. What were some resources that might be useful, that were useful to you then, that might have, stood the test of time and still useful for marketing leaders today to have more business acumen to not only look at the business from the marketing lens, but from profitability, revenue, EBITDA, like all these metrics that are important to the business health?
Yeah, I don't know about specific resources per se, but I think what's probably different today than maybe 15 years ago when I was getting started with my career is just the amount of information and insights that's out there and available to you today, particularly on podcasts like this, where you're getting folks who have been there, done that, been in the trenches, had success, had failures, had learnings, and they're sharing those learnings and insights in real time. And so I believe the information to make yourself a great business person is out there in the same way the information to make yourself a great marketer is. And just like as an investor, we look for founders. This is kind of a old adage in venture at this point that VCs don't invest, or they do invest in lines, not dots. And I think the same thing can be said from marketing to executives to all the way to ICs. Like folks want to invest in people that have a deep slope and that are learning. And so bringing up those resources, how you make yourself a better business person, I think really comes down to your own curiosity and then going out there and finding the best resources and seeing who are the right people to be listening to look at this. Yes, there's probably some classic, more textbook type resources on this, on EBITDA, profit margins, some profitability, more of the business metrics that you're talking about there. But I really think what's changed in the last 2-5 years, really the proliferation of podcasts and operators that have been there and done that are getting on to share those learnings. And so go out there and find them, whether that's on the business side or the marketing side.
Okay. Wild card question while you take this fruit right. So as you can see, a lot of CMOs don't last long at companies. Like I think Sam Jacobs was talking about it. He had a post out there of how he was just talking to a CMO who had just been let go for the third time in 3 years. And so what gave you the longevity to be a CMO for that long? Like, what do you think was the thing that kind of anchored you at the company where you never, excuse me, there may be a time where you felt like, man, like I really blew it. Like, but there's an knowing where, man, I know how to pivot and address any mistakes that were made along the way. So what do you think was kind of like your X factor that, made, helped you have that longevity as a CMO?
Yeah, I think the true X factor is being a missionary, not a mercenary, and truly being deeply involved and intimate with the company and the vision and the founders. I mean, I was there from essentially day one as part of the founding team, felt like a founder of the business, had great incentives to want to see the business grow and succeed. I think one of the things that I did that was maybe different than others was just having the mindset of being open, willing, and knowing that I was going to need to constantly reinvent myself every couple of years. When you're at a high growth startup, things change rapidly, and businesses have different stages. Coming into that position, having been a founder previously to coming to Greenlight with a couple of learning experiences and one small exit, I knew that I was coming to Greenlight to build something for the long term. I think coming into it with that mindset, but I also, with my founder hat on, understood that marketing leaders, CMOs, do often tend to turn over every 1, 2, 3 years if you're lucky. And so going into that and understanding, I mean, I talked with our founder CEO almost from day one that, like, hey, let's have an understanding here. We're trying to set out to build something big, impactful, meaningful, provide a lot of value to our customers, to the world. We're very mission driven. I think that comes back to being missionary versus mercenary and how I was able to, but was very upfront with him to understand, like, hey, I've never led a $100 million ARR SaaS business before, let alone a 10 million ARR SaaS business before. But what I do know is that I understand my capabilities, my current skill set, and where I'm at and what is needed to go 0 to 1, and maybe what's needed to go 1 to 10. And maybe the further we get away from that, the murkier things get. But that's where I know that things are going to get murky. And so I'm thinking ahead and trying to think in years, not quarters or months, to be able to constantly reinvent myself. So I'm not taken off guard that when we are a 20 million ARR business, that we're not operating like we're still a 2 million ARR business.
So that leads me to a next question about longevity. So there's a lot of CMOs and VPs jumping ship to different companies every 6, 12, 18 months. What would be your warning or your, hey, before you decide to jump ship again, here's what you should think about? What would you say to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, besides the general warning that just as leaders, we know it doesn't look good to see on your resume that you're jumping ship every 6, 12, 18 months. I would also think about, like, what is the story that you're going to be able to tell at your next journey? And how are you going to be able to convince, maybe you're able to do it on the first jump or the second jump, but by the time you get to your third, fourth, fifth company and the CEO or the marketing leader or the board or whoever it is asking you, like, what actual impact did you have? How did you actually contribute to the success of XYZ big logo company? Were you truly a pilot, or were you just a passenger? And I think you may be able to fool some folks once or twice jumping ship with some of those logos and trade your way up to a higher salary, a better title. But that doesn't always equate to a better outcome. And I heard this analogy recently somewhere, and going to forgive me for not being able to properly attribute it here. But it was basically this concept that careers often look like stair steps. And so you go from one step, you go to the next step, and it's kind of this very career path, career ladder that you continue to jump on. However, oftentimes the most successful careers often look like J-curves. It's not this steady, nice path up and to the right with nice little jumps along the way, but often that might look of taking a couple steps up the path, and then if you're willing to jump, it's going to have to be for the right opportunity. But that may mean jumping down a couple of stairs, or even not being able to take the jump and not see what's down of how far you got to flow until you pull yourself up. But then if you're able to succeed at that next role, maybe it's a bigger opportunity, but you need to come in with a director title instead of the CMO title, or whatever that is. I would just caution folks to really understand the story that they want to tell about their own journey and their own arc and the impact that they're having along the way. And so with a lot of those short stints, you're just not giving yourself enough time to be able to have that impact that folks are going to be looking for. And like I said, you may be able to fool folks once or twice in the early day, but you do it too many times, and the truth eventually is gonna come out. And so I would just cautious and really understand, if you are going to make that jump, to understand not only what does that mean for you today or over the next 6 months, but what is that going to mean for you in 2 years or in 6 years?
That's a great answer, Nick. So yeah, you've been in the game a while, and so I haven't seen you really jump ship ever. Even when I look at your resume, and let's not get it twisted, I look at it often for inspiration. But yeah, you were at Greenlight for a good while, and so you've been in vertical SaaS before it was as renowned and famous as it is now. So you've been both an operator and now on the investing side. So what's different about marketing for vertical AI that's different from like a traditional SaaS product?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. It's a question. It's a hot topic. My contrarian take in some ways is that actually marketing, revenue, go to market, a lot of the fundamentals are actually staying more similar than they are changing. That being said, there are some clear differences, and we are in the age of AI, and things are different now. I think one of the biggest changes that I'm seeing is that just at the end of the day, the ultimate value prop that you're putting together is shifting today. And traditionally in the cloud era and traditional vertical SaaS, you might be selling a feature or selling a module, and eventually get to selling a product or a platform. Today, vertical AI companies are often selling an outcome, which is a little bit of a shift and puts more onus on the vendor to prove their value, their usefulness, to prove their worth, to prove that they actually do what they say they're going to do. And so whereas in the traditional playbook may have been feature, benefit, ROI, today you're going to have to be a lot closer to the customer and to their problem, and really understand their pain point and understand, is it urgent, is it reoccurring, and how are you going to position that value prop to show that you actually can generate the outcome that they're looking for, and then how that you can make them believe that you are the right vendor to provide that value and to provide that outcome. Because another thing that we're seeing in vertical AI is that, particularly the proliferation of AI coding tools, like it's never been easier to create a product. And clearly the moat isn't coming in the technology anymore these days. But on the flip side, it's never been harder to stand out and to get attention and to get distribution. And so a big shift that we're seeing is less of the focus on your product, the features, the benefits, the ROI, more of the focus on what is the outcome that you're delivering and how can you show why you are the best solution out there to provide that outcome, and give your prospect or customer the trust that you can deliver on what you're saying.
1,000%, because things are moving really quick with AI, and I know there's a lot of CMOs who are trying to adjust their playbooks. They're really, I'm not sure if scared is the right word, but maybe more so concerned about how do I play in this modern era. Is there a skill that you think was important 3, 6, 9, even at the end of your tenure as a CMO, that was important then, that no longer is important, that CMOs are still trying to deploy in this in the AI era?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the bigger shifts is that some of the more successful marketing teams in the cloud era, or back when I was running marketing, oftentimes your success was correlated with how big your team is and how big your budget is. And I think that's vastly changing today. And I think CMOs and VPs of marketing and marketing leaders are, the skill of resource allocation is becoming much more important. And so, yes, more and more processes will be able to be automated. Teams, in theory, should be able to get smaller. However, the early data is showing that's actually not what we're seeing, is that marketing teams aren't shrinking and people are continuing to hire. And so you might ask yourself, like, why is that if we're able to automate? Well, it's really a resource allocation question, is that marketers do have more time and they are getting more done with less, but marketers were already strapped. You know this, I know this. I was strapped, my team was strapped. You've been in this game for a while as well. Resources are always thin when it comes to marketing. And so now that we're able to automate so many of these processes with AI, that essentially frees your brain up to allow you to think about and do the harder, higher level strategic things that still only humans are able to do today. Things like ICP definition, truly understanding your customer's psychology, putting together your unique point of view on the market, really understanding the factors that are driving trust with your prospects, building relationships with your customers, with your partners, all the things that still today and even going forward that only a human will be able to do. And so I guess maybe to summarize there, what's changing or what's not working, like, we are moving from big teams, big budgets equaling success to resource allocation and big brains and the humans equaling success going forward.
Well, I think a lot of CMOs would like to hear that they're not strictly going to get replaced by AI in that way. So then for you, since you have a lot of peers who have done this for a while as a marketing leader, when you're talking to a CMO or a VP of marketing or any high-level head of marketing, what's a signal to you that this person gets it? Like, man, they get marketing, they get vertical AI, they get business. Like, what's that signal for you?
Yeah, I think the signal really comes out when you ask them to start talking about their business. When you ask them to get specific, if a marketing leader or CMO can't explain their growth engine in 1 to 2 minutes, they probably don't have a growth engine. If they are over-rotated on experimenting, that we're experimenting with X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, and F channels, but there's no real focus, then maybe they're doing a lot of things, but they're doing nothing at the same time. And then the final one that I'll say that I look for is that the top marketing leaders and CMO, like, you just got to know your numbers cold. You got to know your pipeline just like a CRO. You got to know all the way from MQL, SQL, all the way through revenue expansion. If you don't know the funnel math up and down, then yeah, you're probably not legit, whether it's at your current gig or it was at your previous one.
Yeah. Okay. Let's shift gears here for a minute. Let's talk battle scars. Because, man, you made it out on the other side, though. If you're open, if you can, like, what's one of those expensive mistakes that might have cost you as a CMO where you were like, dang, like, what was that moment for you?
Yeah, I'll say there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears over the nearly decade that I was at Greenlight Guru, and we were building the thing there. Lot of mistakes along the way, so definitely a lot of areas that I could take this. But if I think back and I think about what was the most important or impactful, sure, we've all made wrong hires and had to roll that back, and I'm sure we've all placed a bet on a strategy or a channel and the experiment not coming back with the results that we're looking for. But I think one of the bigger mistakes that we made at Greenlight that I made as a CMO, and I think we made as a revenue organization, was just not looking to unify our go-to-market teams early enough. As we were scaling from past 0 to 1 and 1 to 5 and 5 to 10, sales, marketing, CS, and product became really siloed. In the early days, it was really easy for myself and the other leaders to stay on the same page, to make sure that product marketing knew what product had coming out and how we were going to enable the 2 or 3 AEs and 2 or 3 SDRs that we had at the time. But as we scaled from 2 to 5 and 5 to 10, somewhere along that way, revenue started to stall out and growth started to stall, and it was a really big deal, kind of a code red, all hands on deck type of moment to really try to understand what is the root cause here. How did we go from growing 200% plus year over year down to 30-40% year over the last 12 to 18 months? And with a bunch of soul searching, digging into the metrics, talking to folks across the business, up, down, sideways, external, internal. What we realized is that we just did not have a unified customer experience from when someone lands on our website and requests a demo through to when they make a decision on whether or not we were the right choice for them, for their solution, to renewal and expansion. There was just so much that was lost from the initial SDR call to the handoff to the AE, to the AE bringing the solution engineer on, to them eventually moving forward, to then handing off to implementation, to then customer success. It was just all disjointed and the messaging mismatch. And so we had to go back and really take a hard look at what we were doing and made some big changes. We had to make some org design changes. We had to make some people changes. But more than anything, we had to make process changes as well. We had to build a unified playbook that expand the entire customer journey. And you notice I say customer journey there rather than sales process, that we were very focused on the customer and what they were experiencing, not on what we cared about and how our departments were structured internally. But through all of that, that was probably a quarter or two process of transformation, and definitely wasn't cheap. It was an expensive mistake to make, but I'm happy to share in under a year, in about 10 months, we were able to take the growth rate back from that 30 to 40 to more like 120, 30%, and we're able to nearly 5x the enterprise value of the company over that time as well.
Wow, that's insane. So now flipping to that glory moment, since you're on the other side of the exit, what do you feel like what was one of the most pivotal things that you did that impacted that exit outcome for the company or for you personally?
Ooh, yeah, that's a big question. Look, at Greenlight Guru, we were running very much a traditional vertical SaaS playbook. We started out with a wedge. We expanded from that wedge into a product. We expanded from that product into a platform. And I think one of the bigger things that we did that had a material impact on the outcome and ultimately where the business is still growing and headed today was really, as an entire executive team, leadership team, founding team came together and solidified our point of view on the market. And we went from selling features and modules to selling a vision. And we moved from a design control tool to a quality management platform to eventually building the medical device lifecycle excellence category. And I think that was instrumental in being able to communicate and tell our story of our much bigger vision, from solving a simple one problem for one persona at a type of company to building the platform to unify the medical device industry around.
Okay. So for a CMO who they're looking at their career and they're like, man, I want to be like Nick. I want to reach that exit moment. Like, I want to hit that pinnacle moment where I've done business at the highest level and we've had an exit moment. How should they position themselves in their career now? What do they need to build credibility around? Like, what would you say is a smart way to kind of position yourself as a CMO who's ready to be a part of a rocket ship that's going to exit?
Yeah. Well, in the career advice, I think CMOs, if you're looking for that rocket ship and you're eventually looking for that life-changing outcome as well, then I think you really need to put your investor or founder hat on, and you got to think like a founder and think like an investor. And you got to get sharp about compensation and equity and your value and the value you're providing and how much money the company's raised and what's the valuation of the company and what's the vision of the founder and how big are they trying to take the thing, and what's your own view as being an experienced marketing leader, Mr. or Mrs. experienced CMO looking for their next ride. When you look at the team, the market, the opportunity, the traction, the competition, can you credibly see yourself being able to help that founding team and that team reach their vision of going from A to B? And so it's important that you have belief in the entire opportunity and that it's not just a good fit for your skill set per se. I think you need to be a little more cautious, a little more picky in the type of opportunity that you're looking at. I think you need to be, I won't say you need to be, it helps to be a missionary versus a mercenary and really become fully immersed in the opportunity and what the business is going after. And then maybe more tactically on the marketing front is that you got to move from being a specialist to a generalist. And so when many marketers are starting out in their career, you start out as a specialist. You might start out as an email marketing specialist, a paid media specialist, a product marketing specialist, XYZ. Over time, though, as you become a VP of marketing, a CMO, a marketing leader, you need to have skills and expertise across all the domains of marketing, whether that's growth, product marketing, brand / content, kind of however you chop up the three major buckets of marketing. But this goes back to the idea of being a T-shaped marketer. You kind of got to be great everywhere, be specialist in some areas. Well, as you continue to grow and you continue to move up to those highest levels and move up into those boardrooms, well, you're more and more expected to be an expert across all of those wide ranges of marketing. And as we know as marketers, that's no easy feat. I'm cautious to my bias as a marketing leader, but I sure do believe that we have pretty damn hard jobs as marketers and marketing leaders, particularly today with how quick everything is shifting with AI. There's a lot for you to keep up on. There's a lot of disciplines. Not to throw shade or anything of our friends in sales, but in sales, like you traditionally have an SDR role, an AE role, a solutions engineer role, where in marketing you might have email, paid, content, ops, product marketing, launches, distribution. Like the level of specificity needed across all of those can go much more in depth. And so to kind of wrap that up, just the CMOs, you need to think like an investor, and you need to become a generalist from a specialist, but you still need to be an expert across all those areas, which is no easy feat for sure.
Okay. Well, last question before we do a little lightning round. So at that point, after you guys raised that final PE round and you had to exit, what was the initial moments or weeks look like for you after that? Was there a big change in your role and expectation after that moment?
Yeah, got to pull myself back to the time and place a couple of years ago now. I think the biggest shift coming out of us raising money, the partial exit that we had with private equity, was just the size of our goals and ambition and the size of the vision. We had painted this vision, and now it was our turn to go execute it on it. And we had the capital and the resources behind us to do it. And so I would say the biggest shift really just came from the accountability and the responsibility of what we were doing and the size of the outcome that we were pointed at. It became very real. We always ran the business very What's the right word I'm looking for? Very data driven, very focused. We're very intent. It was a very serious company, is what I like to say. We like to have fun, but we are very serious. But this just ratcheted up the level of accountability, responsibility that we were doing to another level. But I'll say, like, things just got more intense. It got bigger, it got badder, and the responsibilities got bigger, and we just had to go attack it.
Okay. Well, Nick, you're in the lightning round. So how this works, I just got 5 questions for you, and we're just going to just rattle off an answer. Under 60 seconds, really under 30 seconds if you can. So you're going to take the back.
I can't put another one of these. We only got 30 seconds here.
All right, so first question. I'm going to let you get a sip of water because you're going to need it.
Let's go.
All right, first fruit riot. So one skill every modern CMO needs in a vertical AI era that wasn't required 5 years ago.
I will go back to resource planning and allocation. That's never been more important than it is today, and will only continue to get more important going into the future.
Okay, go ahead, get that fruit right. Number 2, best advice for a CMO trying to earn board trust for the first time.
Have a point of view on the business, on the industry. Come with that, have deep conviction, loosely held, and then do what you say you're going to do.
Okay, go ahead, eat that one. If you're evaluating a founding team and the marketing lead or CMO is missing, is that a red flag for you, or do you believe in hiring a marketer later down the line?
Definitely not a red flag at all. But what would be a red flag is if no one was focused on your go-to-market strategy, your distribution, your pipeline, your ICP, your whole go-to-market strategy. Someone needs to be leading that, and that often should and is the founder in the earliest days.
Okay, eat another one. You got 2 more questions. You're almost done. What's more valuable for a CMO's career? Is it depth in one vertical, or is it breadth across multiple industries?
Ooh, I hate this because the answer is it depends, but. I will go and say it's actually depth across functions is what I will share. It would be awesome if you can become an expert at a single industry and stay in that industry forever. But in my experience, learning the best practices of all of the marketing function and sub-functions is more valuable and more transferable across multiple opportunities.
Okay, last one. Last fruit riot. I want to get your hot take. Since you've been in the role and now you're evaluating the roles. In 5 years, will the CMO role still exist, or will it evolve into something else entirely?
The CMO role will absolutely exist in 5 years. The job is still the same: generate revenue through customer acquisition and expansion. That's not going anywhere.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick, for popping on the podcast. Where can we find you at?
Thank you for having me, Isaiah. This has been a ton of fun. Folks can find me online. I'm mainly on LinkedIn. Nick Tippmann. I'm also over on X, Twitter, and Tippmann as well. And you can, if you're a founder and looking to get in touch with us, you can also check us out on our website, TipTop VC. You can catch me online. Pretty active.
All right, perfect. Those didn't seem to bother you at all, not much, really.
No, you're going to have to go with something deeper. Maybe bring back some nostalgia and bring back the warheads from the 90s or something.
You're the third guest to say. I think next time I have a guest, I'll do the warheads finally. We'll switch from fruit riots to warheads because these have not been working. Well, thanks for being on, Nick. And thanks everybody for watching. I hope you got a ton of value from it, especially you CMOs and VPs. That wraps up episode 6 of Sour SaaS, and we'll catch you on the next episode.